was finally able to recover the file from an interview over a year ago in January of 2020 with Candy and Mike in Florida. This is part one of three. I hope you enjoy it. Let's start with you can introduce yourselves and tell us where you're from, and we'll start with that.
Okay, so we're not going to.
All right, we're Michael and Candy Merrill. We're from Pinellas Park, Florida. We have been married for 30 years, have three children, three grown children, and one granddaughter. And we camp 2 times a year to 3 times a year for a week to 10 days. And then we take most holiday weekends and stuff like that. Thanksgiving weekend, we camp for 4 days.
So unless it's an extraordinary thing, you're normally just in Florida?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. What made you get into camping to begin with?
Well, we camped from the time we were married. We tent camped for 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
When my son turned 16, I was like, we want to do some other things. Florida's hot, really hard to tent camp during the summer.
And the bugs.
Yes.
So we bought our first travel trailer. It was a 28-foot Keystone Hornet with no slides. And that way we went to Tennessee a couple times with him before he turned 18. Ohio with him. To the Florida Keys. Started doing a little bit more around Florida Caverns at that point with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had that camper for 6 years. And then
As the children grow and we're gone, we decided to downsize.
Did you homeschool?
I did homeschool. I homeschooled all 3 of the kids.
At what point did you start?
I started when our oldest was in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
And once our daughter, which is our youngest, went into kindergarten, it became very frustrating, very trying. So we decided to put them in public school, which was not a good choice at all for our kids. And after 4 years of putting them in public school, we decided to bring them back home, and they finished out the rest of their years of schooling as a homeschool.
What was homeschooling like at that time? Was it pretty popular or not?
When I started,
Mm-hmm.
people thought I was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They thought my kids would never learn what they needed to know for when they grew older. But they're very
very adaptive.
very rounded, very adapted.
2 of the 3 kids graduated with
honors.
college honors. And one just didn't want to put in the work and graduated with just a regular, like if he went to a regular school, just a regular degree.
It's okay. He's got it.
They all got it.
Cool.
They all got it. They all walked in their class in Tennessee, hence the
Yes.
Tennessee trips
Mm-hmm.
for graduation with the camper. We went there because I wanted to make sure that they walked with their class. So even though they were homeschooled, they still walked with I don't remember the numbers, but good number. And they went through Accelerated Christian Education was the homeschool umbrella group that we used.
Yeah, because I wanted to make sure that they had exactly what they needed.
Can you tell us more about that group? How do you find that group if it's just still around?
It is
Still
still
around.
around. They are located in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for them
They were located
before
in,
doing a homeschool.
they were located in Pinellas Park, Florida
Yes.
for a few years.
So
Okay.
before starting my own daycare, I used to work for them. And then they moved to Tennessee, and I wasn't going to Tennessee.
Sure.
So do you have to be in Tennessee to use that?
Nope.
No, you do not.
Nope.
No.
No, you do not.
No, Florida required a independent evaluation after each year to make sure that they were on course and are on target.
Right.
And that was just a simple, an educator would come and evaluate them where they were at and talk to them for about an hour each. And that's all they had to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
And they
you-
had so many good experiences with y'all.
Oh, they
camping
did.
and
I
stuff.
mean,
yeah.
they learned a lot of things firsthand. and
Well,
got
She
the
worked out of the
experience.
home for the older part, so we didn't get to travel more often or do things like that. But
Yeah, what we've seen of homeschooled children, they are, especially if they're RVers, they interact all the time with other kids.
Yes.
They're socially adept, and they're smart
oh yeah,
They are
because
smart.
they're allowed to develop properly.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Our middle child is a little hyper
Active.
active, and so he needed that structure just was not good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he would work his tail off for 2 hours, but then he had to have a break.
Sure.
And so he would take a break and come back, and he would finish his schoolwork. And when they were home by themselves, they just had to have their schoolwork done by the time that I got home. And then I would administer any tests that they had.
Yeah.
So because it's pace work, so they worked at a pace level. They could work so
Workbook.
far in a book by themselves. And then I would get home and I'd pull the answer key out, and they were allowed to go back and score their work. And then when they were ready for a test, then we would do the test. Usually the test had to be the next day.
Pretty cool.
So,
Wow.
so it
From
worked
the-
out really, really well, actually.
Yeah.
From the time you got started, can you tell us about any big mistakes you might have made in choosing the rig or truck or whatever?
Our second rig, our first rig was great. Like I said, it had no slides. I had it for 6 years, never had a tire problem, brake problem.
No.
The only problem I had is my son hit the back of it with a lawnmower and broke the light
Yeah.
the day before we left for the Keys.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So I had to run around and find a light to put on there. The only problem I ever had with that camper, and it was my kid inflicted. The second one, we bought a, I think they went out of business now, but it was an IGO.
By Forest River.
I don't remember.
I think it was by Forest
I think it
River.
was by Forest River. A certain division of Forest River, but it was a different group. It wasn't Forest River. But that one had a slide in it. It had one slide. It was a very short unit. And my mistake was I got it for us because we did want to downsize. Our kids weren't going with us no more years before we were going to have grandkids. And so I wanted an outside kitchen. This one had an outside kitchen, really nice outside kitchen. Was very, it just kind of had everything, it, checked the boxes and had a big restroom.
Yes.
But we
That's
had
important.
we had
It is.
terrible problems with the slide. The slide mechanism, we would go out and come back. Next time we go out, it wouldn't work. And we were camping at least that we were just doing little short trips. Our schedule was really allowing us. We were taking every other weekend almost, and we were camping.
Was it a cable slide or a gear?
It was a gear slide,
Gear.
no cable, but it wasn't that part that was failing. It was the electronics part to tell it to go out.
Oh, the computer.
The computer part
Okay.
was what was failing, and we took it back to the dealership every time.
Yeah.
And my mistake was I should have called the manufacturer the first time it happened. I called the manufacturer the last time it happened, and I actually asked them about the lemon law, and I said it's unsafe to cohabitate this because there's only one emergency window in the bedroom, and the bedroom was blocked off on half the side. So if there ever was an emergency and we had to get out, the emergency window was on the blocked off side. So it was really an unsafe condition. And their fix was they went out into the yard, took the newest unit that came in, took off all the components, changed them, and we had that camper for 5 years and never had another issue. But
Awesome.
every time we went to put the slide out, every time, it was like, well, I hope it goes in.
Take
and
a
then
deep
when,
breath.
when we traded it in, we were like, well, I hope it goes in this day because we traded it in while we were on vacation and camping. And
Wow.
when we got this big rig,
Very brave.
Yeah.
and I was like, well, I sure hope it goes in one last time. And it comes out again. Why they inspect it? Because at that point, then it wouldn't be ours.
So
Wow, it's never done that before.
Yeah.
So contacting the manufacturer first is usually a good first thing to do, and let
Yes.
them recommend somebody in the area, perhaps,
Maybe.
for you to take it
This
to.
was the only dealer that, and it was a small dealer. Like the dealership was so small, you could not pick it up on the weekend.
No, they weren't open.
You could not pick up a new vehicle on the weekend.
Wow.
You had to pick it up on Fridays, and you couldn't pick it up from service because service was closed on the weekends. So,
Yeah,
right,
crazy.
And you weren't living it at the time.
we were not living in it. Yeah, yeah, and we don't live in this one as big as it is. We don't live in
Okay.
it. This sits in the front yard.
Seems like the weekend would be the time they would be open because
Right.
everybody's off
You'd
work
think they
and
would be
they're
closed on
looking.
Monday.
Yeah. Monday or
Yeah.
Tuesday.
I was
you
okay
know.
with them not being open on Sunday, but Saturday, I'm like, come on, you're not open on a Saturday for
Yeah.
pickup.
That's
No.
crazy. Crazy, crazy.
We wrote the
So,
questions out.
What does your family think about you traveling and doing all that, or your plan to travel later on? Are they supportive or?
Oh yeah.
Our
Yeah.
kids
Think
are
you're
very
crazy?
supportive. We really don't haven't discussed it with our extended families, but our kids are very supportive of it. And
Yeah.
Are there other RVers in your family like you?
yes,
Yeah.
there are.
That helps.
Yeah, we're
It
1,000
does.
Trail members, and 2 of her sisters are 1,000 Trail members, and one of their sons is a 1,000 Trails member.
Yeah.
So our kind of goal as when we leave on our first trip after we retire is we're going to hook up with them on the way. When we went to Indiana last year, my one nephew was supposed to come, and his truck was broke down, so he was unable to tow the rig up. And I actually told him, I said, I'll tow it up. I'll be there. I'll tow it for you, but you'll just have to get a way back.
Yeah.
And so it just didn't work out for them
Yeah.
for that trip. So
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's awesome. So all of your kids, because those are in, what do they call it? You're able to pass it down.
Yes.
When
Yep.
you pass away, you can
They
pass
can
down.
inherit
Yes,
it.
they can inherit it.
yep, and they
Yeah.
can use it now. So
yeah.
'cause,
Yep.
we don't have, I think we have the choice package, which gives us up to 21 days in a park. Then we got to be out 7.
Yeah.
So our retirement scheme is we're probably going to stay 13 days at the most at a park, and then go park to park.
Right.
And then, of course, the middle of the country, we know we don't have. We'll have our encore and stuff at that point.
Encore, and boondocking, and harvest host at that
Harvest
time.
host, Boondock Welcome, and we'll do that stuff then. But right now we camp here. We're going to go to South Carolina next year. We'll probably go up there for 10 days. It'll be one of our trips that we take next year.
Cool.
So we've been there before. We're going to go to the other one in South Carolina.
Yeah.
So the one closer to the beach, not the one on the lake.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I know we talked earlier about your plan because you're not full time right now.
Right.
So, just for people that are in that process, I know yours is a little bit longer, but can you describe them? a
Right.
little
Well,
bit?
we've planned to retire. Probably 10 years ago. We knew we were going to retire an RV. That's what we wanted to do. And so I have 10 years left before I get my full pension. I have a government job, so I do get a pension, and that's in place. And I can leave less than 10 years now. So my goal is to, as we get closer to that, we're going to start downsizing our house. We're going to keep our house.
That was one of the discussions that we had was, do we sell our home? Do we keep our home and rent it? So we
And we're-
decided to keep it and
We're
rent it.
we're in Pinellas Park, Florida, which is a few miles north of St. Petersburg and a few miles south of Clearwater. We're in a very
Desirable
area for renters, and I can rent it for a lot more than the time that we plan on being on the road. It'd pay for itself a couple times,
Yeah.
and then I still have the house. So, I have monthly income from that. So,
And
our plan is to start downsizing and be out of the house probably 6 months before my official retire date, which is probably going to be in February of 3030 or 2030.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3030. Woo!
I won't be around.
Yeah. I don't think I will be either.
That's okay.
So, and our goal is when we first retire is we're going to go to Alaska for that summer. So that is our goal, our plan as of right now. Subject to change. A lot of things can change in 10
In
years.
10
But
Do you have a plan to change rigs, or are you going to keep this one?
we don't know yet. We're going to keep this rig. It's a 40-footer. It's a Keystone Sprinter Anniversary Edition. We're probably going to keep it up until either time of retirement
Or
or close to it, to where to be paid for
Yeah.
at retirement. So,
And currently, we are working on getting out of debt, being debt free by time we retire. so.
Outstanding.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
what else you got?
I can't see. So I know right now you're just doing the weekends or the short trips or whatever. When you go full time, are you planning on just being in parks, or are you going to try to boondock some, or are you going to put solar?
We're going to put solar on for sure.
Yes.
And that's waiting to determine. We don't need it right now. I don't need to make that investment right now because we're pretty much going to go from park to park right now. So I definitely want to be able to boondock. there's just too much of the country in the middle of the country that just
Too gorgeous.
all of the BLM land and all that stuff that you can go and stay. And I'm an outdoors guy. I would rather be outside. And other than Florida, where I'm sitting here sweating on the second day of January, I like it to be brisk. I like it. I don't want to be 20 below. I don't want to be nowhere like that. At that time, I will run from the winter as it comes.
Right.
Winter comes in, I will continue to go south.
Chasing 70.
And our
There you
first
go.
year, our first year, the goal is to winter in Arizona. You know, we live in Florida. We don't want to come back to Florida to winter, even though it's a lot of cool stuff to do. But we're thinking Arizona, Southern California.
Well,
Lots of 1,000 trails out there to bounce
There-
around in.
There's so much of the country that doesn't have 1,000 trails or
Right.
Encore, and they have plenty of harvest toast and boondockers welcome.
Yep.
And you can see the rest of the country just doing that.
Yes.
Yep. I mean, that's our goal. That's what's really cool. When we first heard about Harvest Toast and Boondockers Welcome, was like, that would be so cool. Hopefully they're still around, and they seem to be growing, so it seems like it will be.
Yep.
Just the spots we've seen, and we're not wine drinkers or things like that, but it's like, that would be really cool to go to that winery and watch them do this,
Watch
or
them
see
do
this,
that.
see
Help
this
them.
happen.
Are
Help
you
them.
members of Escapees or Escapers?
No, not
No.
yet.
Have any plans?
Not yet. Nah, not for a while.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be,
They have some great meetups.
yeah. Our problem is we get 2 weeks vacation.
Yeah.
Do I want to?
Yeah.
My wife gets 2 weeks vacation. Do I
Yes.
want to use that 2 weeks to go do that,
Right.
or do I want to go these places? So right now we're going to these places.
Okay.
And can you get off during the time they're having the thing? You know,
Right.
New Year's and
Exactly.
Christmas and all
Yeah,
that,
she's pretty
yeah.
good. She can take off time. She can schedule her time, and it usually works out well. But she runs her own business, so she tries to accommodate the parents the best she can.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. Do you have any hacks or tips for people that are just starting out, or things that you've learned?
YouTube.
YouTube is your friend.
YouTube is your friend.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
A couple of our adventures, the Alaska trip, which I've always wanted to do, just never looked at. Just too long from Florida to do a trip on working. You know,
Oh, sure.
I can't drive up there, and I can take up to 3 weeks off at one time. I can't get there and back in 3 weeks.
No.
I mean, that's just crazy.
And
so
see everything.
and see everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. If I'm gonna do that, we'll do a cruise. We'll fly in, we'll see everything, and then fly back. You know.
Yeah, I would recommend Less Jump More Journey and Keep Your
Yes.
Daydreams. Do you have any other
We have Keep the Daydreams. I don't have
for the Alaska trip?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna follow their Alaska trip. Keep Your Daydream. And we just got introduced to YouTube in September when we went to my son's house. He didn't have cable, and he goes, "But Dad, I watch YouTube, and let's watch this guy." And so we were just looking through the channels, and I'm like, "What's this?" And it was Keeping Your Daydream. And we just watched their newest episode, and we watched like 5 episodes, and we said, we got to go back. So we went back and binge watched all of their
Yes,
episodes,
we
and
did.
we're up to date.
We did.
And so we just kind of like, and so to get to see what other people have done.
Right.
And so hacks,
RV shows.
RV shows.
Definitely.
With this big rig, one of the things that we've had 4 blowouts on this with the manufacturer tires before they were less than 2 years old, and probably less than 1,500 miles on the rig.
China bombs.
Time
Yes.
bombs. And I check the air pressure before I leave. I make sure it's good. I do walk-arounds. I do all that stuff. I have my Class A CDL. I know how to do a vehicle check. I've checked all that, checked it all. When we went to Indiana last year, I blew 2 tires before I got to the mile marker 18 in Georgia. On tires that literally at that time were a year and a half old.
Yeah.
You know, the camper was a year and a half old. I
Upgrade.
did buy upgraded tires, but I was like,
Tires.
I shouldn't have to put these tires on yet. And I should have. Would have had a whole lot better trip. But, we got help from people people told us that we had a flat tire because one was on the passenger side and it was the back one. And you can't see it. So I would say a hack would be, if you buy a rig, make sure they're American tires. If not, upgrade the tires and get a tire monitoring system.
Yes.
I don't think the tire monitoring system I don't know. I could have saw one that was going down and pulled off the side of the road. I don't know. I just don't know what
Mine will
happened.
beep and alarm if the pressure goes down.
Yeah.
Or the temperature goes up too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wish, and that's the January RV show that's coming up here in Tampa. That will be one of my purchases.
Yep.
Will be the new tire monitoring system.
Well, that's it for part one. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit the like button. And if you like what you see on our channel, please subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. And be sure to check out part two up next.